Hello and welcome once again to the Varlastan Circle, a DnD5e adventure in a homebrew setting brought to you by Penance RPG, an actual play podcast and Twitch variety stream. You can find out more about Penance RPG at penancerpg.com or in the stream information below. I'm Lunrwolf, an occasional variety streamer and creator of the Varlastan setting. I'll be guiding our cast through the trials that await them. AJ.
Hello.
Who are you?
Oh, it's me, AJ. Hello. I'm here all the time. I was waiting for a question. You just said my name. I was like, what's going on? It's me, AJ. I've forgotten every single detail of my life, who I am, what character I'm playing, and everything. So it's been a while since I've been on a stream. I'm playing Timidar, who I can't remember anything about. Including the voice, so we'll see what happens here. And yeah, just happy to be alive. Over to you, Eden.
Yeah, me? Cool. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Let's just pull in the ripcord on that. I don't know.
Okie doke. I'm Eden. I'm playing Silic, the Total Paladin. And yeah, last time I made a terrible turtle pun, so I'm going to avoid that. Let me throw it over to you, Amy.
That's a quick one.
Yeah, short and sweet.
Hello, I'm Amy. I'm playing Jack, our little happy-go-lucky rogue gnome. And yeah, we're back again. Fun times. Let's go.
And last but by no means least, Dragon.
Hello, I'm Dragon. If you watch or listen to Penance RPG, you know all the random guff about me already. I have chronic illnesses, and that is why you're currently getting a picture instead of a camera stream for me, because I look like death warmed over right now and nobody needs to be worried about that. I am playing Araya. She is a Aasimar ranger.
That should do us, and on with the show. So, last time we visited Varlastan, you reached the town of Naglington. You assisted the innkeeper with a problem in their cellar, and then you went for a well-earned night's sleep. However, in the smallest hours of the morning, when the darkness is at its height, you are rudely awakened by a clattering on the roof.
Are we all waking up at the same time, or is somebody?
No,
Is there any
you're
of us
all-
that maybe
Yep,
would be
it's
the
a
first
great-
to jump up?
It's a great clattering, sufficient to wake you all up.
I'm trying to think. Does Silic sleep with his arms and legs in his body? I think he might.
Just for the, like,
Yeah, I don't need a bed. He's just on the floor on a rug in shelf.
Jack will have put like a little blanket over his shell.
So
It
he's
could be
definitely arms and legs popping out immediately in all directions and up to his feet. Ah, ah! What's happening?
I don't know, but they're making an awful racket.
who's waking me up?
Oh dear, they've interrupted Timidar's sleep. He'll suffer terrible, and I'm sure we will as well.
Oh, he'll complain constantly all day tomorrow. Oh,
I can hear you.
We're still
yeah, we know.
Yes, my apologies. You know your ways. Looking up at the ceiling, is the noise continuing?
It does appear to be. It sounds like something is moving around up there, possibly dragging something across the roof.
I could go up and have a look if you like.
Certainly sounds like there's something large moving about up there. What it's doing, Who knows? And Silic goes towards the nearest window, pops it open, and sort of gives a little glance upwards to see if there's any indication of like anything that you can spot up there.
Okay. Make me a wisdom check, please.
Wisdom. Okie doke. See what I've got. Rolled. Oh, hang on, wrong die. 1 second. Okay, that's a 19.
Okay. You're startled to see out of the window that all you can see is bands of purple light. And as you look up towards the roof, the sky above you doesn't seem to be the same sky that you've seen on previous nights. A flickering ray from the roof seems to lead upwards towards the sky itself.
Some strange magic seems to be at work. Perhaps there's a light out here. We should certainly head up to the roof, as you said, Arya.
I think I better go up and check out what's happening.
Yes,
Be careful.
I'll follow you
Right
up.
behind you.
Cover your back.
Let me know how it turns out.
Right there. Can't go back to
Well,
sleep.
Timidar.
There's strange lights in the sky every night. There's no reason to interrupt a perfectly good night's sleep.
Though there aren't strange lights in the sky, that's why it's weird.
Don't just let him go back to sleep.
Yes, you rest for now. I'm sure we can get your attention again. Oh, he's out.
If
It doesn't take a lot.
if it's important, we can come back.
I'm sure Kuji will keep an eye on him.
Oh yeah, Kuchi. Keep
I'm not going to sit there with my face like that the whole time.
So I'm going to assume that I'm going to try and be sneaky and stealth my way up to get a closer look.
Okay. You can certainly attempt that. You want to give me a stealth check?
I love how you say attempt that with my disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fine. Neither of them would have done it. 8.
Yep. You catch your foot awkwardly in the window as you go to climb out of it, which creates quite a noise. But nothing seems to really care apart from you.
I mean, that's good. Araya glances over just to make sure that Timidar hasn't been woken up again yet.
Timidar definitely doesn't care about the noise you're making.
Perfect. Oh well. Up I go.
Okay. It's a relatively easy climb to get from the windowsill onto the edge of the roof.
Okay.
You're not under any pressure, so we'll take that one for granted. You can see the outline of a figure a little way across the roof from you, but the outline is tinged with purple around the edges and deep black inside the lines.
Does it seem magical?
It doesn't necessarily look very magical from what you can see. It looks like the outline of a large humanoid carrying something.
I'm gonna walk over to it, or go closer to it, not walk up right in front of its face and just go hi.
You're not going to do a Jack.
No, I'm a much bigger target than Jack is.
That's fair.
So yeah, I'll go over, get a closer look, see if I can tell anything more from a bit closer.
Okay. What are the rest of you doing while Araya is doing this?
How did you get up to the roof? Was it a ladder up to like was there a ladder somewhere, or I'm just trying to picture the scene a little bit.
It's just the eaves are within a reasonably easy reach of the windowsill, so you can hold yourself up without too much trouble as long as you're not doing so under pressure.
Noting that there's not really been any noise or action since she went up onto the roof, which, for good or bad, that's curiosity inflicting. So Silic's gonna kind of turn to Jack and go, "It's gotten a little bit quiet. I was expecting some sort of reaction. Can certainly see some strange lights happening up there, so perhaps we should venture up there ourselves."
Maybe they're hiding. Maybe they're needing us to search for them. Must be lost if they're up there on the roof. There's nothing up there.
It's a strange place for anybody to be gallivanting in the middle of the night.
Maybe it was a seagull.
Oh, he's sleep talking again.
Seemed so pertinent to what we were talking about. I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of his brain still active. Irrespective, we should certainly get up there and find out what's happening. Timidar, dare I ask, will you be joining us?
Fine, but you're buying breakfast.
Absolutely.
That's fair. That's fair. I might need a little bit of help getting on the roof, though.
No problem at all, my little friend. Silic scoops you up and kind of pulls you up towards the eaves so you can get a good handhold and pull yourself up.
My wee legs just dangling in the air.
Would you like a hand with the climb, Timidar? I appreciate you're quite weary.
No, I think I can handle it.
Oh, absolutely.
Kuji sees that you're all going to leave the room, looks out of the window, and her eyes get very, very big, and she dives under the bed.
Oh, poor Kuji.
Oh, fear not, little one. We'll be all right. Unless, well, Kuji,
Unless we all die.
do you recognize something about that light out there, Kuji?
Is he in between?
Between?
In between. I have seen before. In my sky.
Oh. And Silic raises the turtle equivalent of an eyebrow and kind of looks to the others like, well, this is, I don't know, a little concerning. Perhaps the barrier between our worlds is weakening again.
Oh, I don't want that. Oh.
Are you still
Are we
down
gonna
here?
get stuck? So I'm still not gonna go. I don't want to get stuck.
Perhaps it's best that you come with us, Kuji. We wouldn't want to leave you behind.
She pulls
think she's already
pulls the
been through
blankets
it.
down off the bed to trap herself in under the bed frame. She's not going anywhere.
Seems like a decent plan, in fairness.
I like being strong as he is, and I'm not going to push Kuji too hard. Can I grab the end of the bed, lift it up, and look at Kuji kind of like clinging onto the inside of it and say, well, I appreciate that clearly you've had some experiences and we won't force you into this, but your thoughts on this would be appreciated. If there's anything more you could tell us about the in-between, as you said.
She squeaks as you lift the bed,
Seems excessive, yes.
but blinks at you. It's only at night. If you wake and it is dark, and everyone is asleep. And sometimes the in-between.
It's very cryptic. And he slowly lowers the bed back down to hide Kuji back under it. Well, we should continue on our way. Araya's probably wondering what the hell we're doing out down here. She's certainly gone quiet in the interim.
Okay. And back to Araya we go. So you're skulking gently across the rooftop as best you can. Despite the fact that you don't really have a problem with the level of light, you're not getting any more detail from the humanoid shape in front of you. So what would you like to do?
I'm currently trying to work out if Araya has the wisdom or intelligence to realise that means that it's probably an absence of light. Like that thing is sucking in light rather than there not being enough light to see it.
That's a fair question. I'm going to say yes, Araya has just about enough wisdom to be able to pick that out.
Excellent, that makes a change. So, that being so, she's going to do she wants to try and do an Arcana check and see if she can sense any magic or, well, arcane stuff going on.
Okay.
Because that shouldn't really be happening with a purely mundane cause.
That's fine. Go ahead and make your check for me.
That is 13.
Okay. And make a dexterity check.
Three.
I thought you might say something like that.
I'm not very good at being a ranger.
You tap into your knowledge of a little bit of magic to try to see if there's anything around you that has a magical source. And all that you can see from horizon to horizon flares brightly. Everything you can see has a magical source, and the shock of it sends you sliding backwards down the edge of the roof. You manage to catch yourself just in time, but you're dangling from the eaves, not quite on top of Jack, but suddenly beside him. What would you like to do?
Araya's gonna probably start trying to explain, like, it's magic, all of it, the sky, somehow, is all magic. And it's, the thing on the roof has got, like, a purple outline, and it's sucking in the light.
Oh, it's magic, and it sucks in light.
No, the entire sky is magic.
Oh.
It's like a different sky.
Could it be a different sky, though?
I don't know, but it's never looked like that before.
I reckon we should just lie on this roof and watch.
I join the dangling.
As the shape on the roof continues to move, reminds you that you're not alone up there.
I'm also dangling.
So there's like three of us. So there's like a row of three of us.
Silik's kind of chosen to stay in the window frame at this point and is just watching his three companions hanging from the awning, waiting with his kind of hands ready, like, if any of these fall, I'll be ready. Those grips loosen.
So, did you talk to it?
Did you think I would get that close before checking if it was some magical thing that was going to explode at me?
Well, how do you know until you ask it?
By using my eyes, Jack. Here, I'll help you up, and then you can just toddle over and ask it if you want.
Okay, fine. I've got dark vision. I can see in the dark. It's all good. I'll go ask him.
Jack's gonna pull themselves up, like slowly approach the shadow thing. Hello.
The large humanoid shape cranes its head, or what you assume to be its head, around towards you. The purple
Jack's
lines on its edge shimmer as it moves. The only other discernible feature is a pair of purple flaming eyes that gaze upon you.
Jack's just gonna stop dead and just like put his hand up and just be like, "Hello, I'm Jack. Do you mind me asking why you're on our roof?"
The figure looks at you, possibly contemplating you, possibly wondering whether you're beyond its interest. Reaches into the large sack at its feet and pulls out a little jar. Inside the little jar, dancing purple flames. It hefts it briefly in its hand, places it carefully on the rooftop, and then leaps, travelling ridiculous distances, landing on a nearby rooftop with a crash. The jar in front of you flickers gently.
Jack's just gonna study it carefully and be like, "Don't touch it. Don't touch it." What the hell? Just gonna pick it up and wander back to the east. So, the creepy shadow person left this.
It jam.
I don't think it's jam. It would be nice if it was jam, but I don't think it's jam.
I think we might need your magical talents, Timidar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can we go back in the room?
I was going to say I pulled myself up onto the roof, but whichever's easiest, really, I suppose.
And how are those arms feeling after like 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have +1 in strength, but that's not a lot.
Okay, so you're making your way back into the room?
I guess so.
If it's easier, I don't mind.
So like helps everybody down from the window ledge, helps you get in.
Thank you, Silly.
Most welcome.
Oh, here.
I'm just gonna hand this over to Timidar.
Do your
well,
magic. What's it, weirdo stuff?
Well, what do you want me to do with it?
I don't know. You're the wizard.
I don't deal with magic.
Well, I can tell you now I've got limited options.
As you hand it over, Jack, you notice a label.
Oh, I should have looked at that.
I use my bottomless magical powers to read the label.
It's written in a very fine flowing script. It says on it, Kuji.
Oh.
Oh.
Is
Not
Kuji
jam,
still
then.
under the bed?
Yes.
gonna walk over, like kneel down on the floor and look under. Cutie, sweetie.
Yes.
Whatever it was that was up there is gone now. You can come out.
Gone, or just moved?
Moved a very long way.
Leaped
Okay.
away.
The blankets shuffle out from under the bed. And Kuji peeps out of them. She sees the jar. It's the only lit thing in the room. And he shrinks back into the blankets again. What is that?
We call it a jar. It's a container for putting things in.
How many of us just roll our eyes at the bar for that?
Jack's just giving him a really funny look, going, I think she knows what it looks like. I think she knows what a jar is.
You never can tell.
Timidar in the movie version will be played by Leslie Nielsen. Duly noted.
Adjust the voice I'm doing.
Well, Kuji seems quite taken aback at this talk of everything that's happening and all this purple light and these strange fiery things. I dare say we'd probably do well to keep those in that jar. I have a horrible feeling that the name of our companion being on it might be a portent of sorts. Is this jar for Kuji? And when I say for, I do not mean for them to enjoy.
I don't know. I want to know what it is. Is it like magic dust or is it like something that Kuji's maybe forgotten, or is it? I don't know. It's just a jar of stuff. And you're the magic expert, Timidar, so we're all relying on you.
Well, I don't have a detect magic spell or identify, so it looks to be a jar of shiny stuff. Satisfied?
Maybe we should take it to somebody tomorrow who's maybe got that spell.
Yeah. Maybe. Still.
Philip walks back over to the window and pokes his head out and looks around, kind of like in the general area around him. If the sky wasn't familiar, is the setting, are there familiar buildings that we passed as we entered, or is the general surroundings of the building also changed?
You can make out buildings that look like they're approximately the same as the ones that you came in past, but it's impossible for you to say for sure with the pearl lighting.
And is there any indication of any movement out there, any people, anything, any signs of life within the town around us?
Only thing you can see or hear is the sound of what you assume is the creature moving around on a roof some distance away from you.
I must admit I'm a little hesitant to retire again with whoever or whatever that was roaming around. You said that it leapt off into the distance, but it left that gift for us, which makes me wonder, will it be back to see the aftermath of its handiwork, perhaps? I would gladly stand guard at this window for the rest of the night if you wish to rest.
All right.
We can take turns.
Timidar!
Well, he said he'd do it.
But
Timidar
is he
sleep.
here?
Is there any sense of how deep into the night we are? Is it like 4 o'clock in the morning, or are we talking like it's just gone past 12 and I'm in for a long night shift by doing this?
You definitely feel like it's the small hours of the morning, but you're not entirely sure how late through it is.
How well rested is Silic after the amount of sleep that they had? just so that I've got a sense of like whether or not I should volunteer for shift patterns.
You probably shouldn't stand the rest of the night on your own.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the suggestions of shifts. I would take up perhaps until daybreak. The sun rises. Is it quite early at the moment? Is it summer or winter? Sorry, so many questions.
The sun rises relatively early, where you currently are, but like I say, you're not entirely sure how far off that is.
I will stand guard until I see the first signs of light. I have a feeling that I rested relatively well, but I could do with a little bit more retiring time just before we venture on tomorrow. So, which of the two of you would like to take the next guard shift? I have to assume Timidar won't be volunteering here.
He's already been woken up, apparently, so he's not going to do another shift.
You already owe me breakfast.
Yes, well, you sleep well and build up that hunger.
That's the plan.
I don't mind doing it. I'll take the next one.
Ah, excellent. Well, you rest well. I will keep an eye on this jar in the meantime. Perhaps study it to see if there's a movement or any reaction within the thing.
Maybe there's stuff on the other side of the label.
And Timidar... sorry, Timidar. I'm taking your character now. Silik holds the jar up in front of him and kind of tries to spy the inside of the label.
All you can see is that there may be some more letters on it. You can't make them out because of the flame flickering in the jar.
The quality of the light in this room's a little bit weak for me to be able to read this, but I suppose when daybreak comes I shall pass this over to you and I shall see what's in it. But there does seem to be something written on the inside of the jar, that's for sure.
Ooh.
While they're doing this, Uraya has gone back to the window and is looking suspiciously up at the sky.
Okay.
She's suspicious if it's back to normal or not yet. So she'd like to do another Arcana check.
That's fine. I'm not going to make you roll for it. It's still purple as far as you can see, and although you're prepared for it this time, your Arcana knowledge still blinds you with the brightness of the magic. You also pick out that the jar itself contains a source of magic, or is an object of magical power.
Be really careful with that jar. Don't open it. Don't let it break open.
Certainly not. You can rely on me.
Don't sit on it. Don't want to get into a one-man, one-jar situation here. I may have taken it too
I'm
far.
not on camera for that.
I am not going to even... Moving on from that reference. Damn my mind's eye. What have you done to me, man?
I'm him in his sleep talking. He speaks some weird stuff sometimes. Honestly.
I'm a turtle, and yes, this is one jar, but... You go back to bed. You seem a little confused.
Yeah,
The rest of the group with a little quizzical look of like, what did he mean? I'm not even going to ask.
It's probably wise.
I tell you, those too many naps, they do stuff to his head.
Okay. So we settled then. Silik will stay awake for the next couple of hours. Everyone else will sleep. Okay. Silik, then. Can you make me a constitution check?
Absolutely. 4. Yeah.
That's an excellent start. Can you then make me a religion check, please?
Okay. 16.
Excellent. Okay. As you stand watch, looking between the jar and occasionally the window, the flames seem to call to you. You find that you are looking longer at the jar, less at the window, until you realise your entire focus is on the jar and the flames flickering within it.
Okay.
You hear a voice inside your head. I see you, paladin of a false god. I see you in my land, under my sky. I see you protecting one of my own. Find me. Find my brothers. Find all that is and all that was, and reject that which has been put before you. We will wait. We have always waited. You see, as the voice fades, an image in your mind's eye. A sphere dividing itself into segments, each with a symbol that is somehow familiar to you, but you can't quite place it. You believe, based on your training, that these are religious symbols of a kind that have been long out of use and are now only found in ancient relics of a sort that the Circle would hastily investigate and remove.
Okay. Well, let's say that Silic had rested the jar down on the window ledge, and as the voice was calling out to him, he kind of got down on his haunches and was just sort of face to face with the jar, staring intently into it, and heard this voice.
Mm-hmm.
And as it finished speaking, and speaking of a false god, how cognizant of himself is he, or is he completely lost in the kind of like the rapture of this thing talking to him?
Entranced by the flame and the voices using it.
Okay. And when they finish speaking, does he snap out, or is Silic now just fully fixated until something comes along to snap him out?
With the voice ending, the flame becomes slowly less beguiling. You come back to yourself over time. It's definitely not a sharp transition, though.
Okay. So feeling whatever the influence was fading away, Silic kind of blinks a few times and realizes he's down on his haunches and kind of leans back from the window ledge and pulls himself up and thinks to himself, talk of false gods? And a shiver runs down his spine, and he sort of looks around the rest of the room to see that is everybody safe? Is there any sign of movement within the room? Has anybody spotted that he was entranced like that?
Nope. Nobody is in any way interested. They're all happily sleeping. The only thing you notice as you look around you is that the sky is no longer purple.
Silic takes that as a very small reassurance, but is very much not... well, he's taken aback with the idea that a voice has spoken to him and spoken of his god as a false one. And for the remainder of his shift is going to leaf through whatever texts he might have with him from the Circle to try and reaffirm some sense of like centering himself. He's a paladin. He truly believes in what has been put in front of him. So to be told that they're false gods and to be spoken to like that is certainly shaking him.
Yeah, that's fine. You can study the Book of Almond with relative impunity, light permitting. So that will occupy you for a little while, and then the first hint of dawn will appear on the horizon.
Still deeply concerned with his lot, Silic wanders over to Jack and gives him a fingertip like nudge. Good morning. The sun is rising.
Okay. Me too.
As Jack's
All
getting
right.
up. Oh, sorry.
I was like, you alright?
No. I should speak with you just a little way away from everybody else. We shouldn't wake them before time, but something very concerning has happened as you rested.
Okay. Just gotta totter over with him.
We wander over to the window where I've left the jar, and Slick says, as you all slumbered, I found myself slowly becoming transfixed by the colors and shapes within this jar. And I must admit I lost myself for a time, and when I won't say awoken, but wait, let me try that again. I won't say that I awoke from something, but it was more like I was transfixed, and when I came back to myself, I knew for sure that a voice in that jar had spoken to me, and it spoke of our god being false, that we had protected one of its own, perhaps Kuji over there, and that we were to wait. And I witnessed a vision of sorts, of a sphere dividing. I've seen hints of this in old texts, but things that the Circle certainly does not abide these days. And
Oh, okay. What, like old dead history, or is this like
something ancient. And as I said,
Oh.
it's the slightest hints of talk of voices and other places. I've heard talk of it, not particularly myself seen anything in the writings, because, well, the talk is hushed and mostly concerned with the fact that we shouldn't consider these things, but I'm finding it hard not to consider them at this time.
okay? So I don't want. You don't want me to look at it just in case it talks to me, or do you think it's done? And it stopped its creepy techno babble.
It's not that I even found myself particularly looking at it until I felt that a strange draw towards it, that it held interest in a strange way. I can't quite put my finger on it, but if you feel that pull, perhaps it's best that you rouse the rest of us. I must admit, and he kind of rubs his eyes, that this has worn me a little. I'm shaken by the experience, and I feel like I ought to at least relax for a little while to try and recover.
You hit the sack. I'm gonna find a pillowcase and put it over the top of it because I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. Jack wanders over and gets a pillowcase and just puts it over the jar. Like, no, don't want your creepy, weird magic. Creep me out. Go have some rest.
Much
I'll wake you
appreciated.
up.
Much appreciated, my friend. And he pops his legs in, plops to the floor, and then gives a little kind of nod, and arms, head, plop down.
Put his little blanket back over him. Jack's just gonna sit and file his nails. There's nothing really else, and keep an eye on the window.
Okay. The pillowcase with the jar, what did you do with it? Or is it
I
still
just
on
put
the
it
window
over
sill?
the top of it.
Is it still on the windowsill?
Yes.
Okay.
I've just put the pillowcase over it just to hide it because I don't want to look at it.
That's fair. Okay, so you can see the dawn is starting to come in properly now. The sky is definitely no longer purple in any way of nature that it was in the night. And you can't hear any sounds that indicate that there's still anything interesting going on anybody's rooftop. But what you can hear, very occasionally, as you file your nails and wait for the sun to finish rising, is a very, very quiet clink. It's not far from you, but you're not quite sure where it's coming from. It's very occasional.
Can I wait and see what direction it's coming from and try and focus on it?
You can.
Okay.
It only sounds every maybe 20 or 30 minutes. So
Okay.
You can try to concentrate to listen for it, but it's.
Can I look out the window to
You
see
can.
if it's outside?
How long are you going to look out of the window for?
Just a quick glance up and down the street to see if something.
Yeah, there's
Um,
nothing that you can
well-
see. There's no people moving quite yet in the town.
Okay. Can I
Um,
go over and crack the door to our room
mhm.
slightly and glance down the hall?
Yeah, there's nothing to be seen there either. But while you're looking down the hall, you hear one of the clinks. It's definitely not coming from in front of you as you stand in the doorway.
Okay. We can go back into the room. Just be like, okay.
This is a bit weird. Where's this sound coming from?
Do you have any other ideas you'd like to try?
No. Jack's just gonna sit back and wait until it's time for Araya's turn.
Okay. The dawn is thoroughly broken. You can hear movement downstairs from in the inn, and you can hear movement outside in the street through the window. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. And it's about the point where you ought to be waking the rest of the party.
Alright, guys.
As you start to think of it, you hear one more clink from the
Damnedest
windowsill.
clink.
Oh! Go look at the jar. Just, like, not lift up the pillowcase to start with, but be like looking over, going,
What's going on?
The pillowcase definitely doesn't look as excessive around the jar as it did when you put it onto it.
okay. Can I start pulling the pillowcase away?
You can. As you start to lift it, you realise that there are more jars than there were when you put it on.
Oh! Am I a wizard? What? Oh! Oh! Somebody. Anybody. I did a thing. Zarek! It did a thing!
Like kind of pops his head half out of his shell with a weary look in his eyes, like, what? The jar did something?
I'm gonna like lift up the pillowcase and be like, I made more, apparently. I covered it up because I didn't want to look at it after what you said earlier, and now there's more.
How many jars are we presented with from now that the pillowcase has been revealed?
There's one every half hour.
Jars on the windowsill.
Sorry, how many?
5.
5.
Has this commotion woken the rest of us up?
It definitely woke you up. I don't know about Timidor.
Fair enough.
I'm slow to wake, but there's a conversation in the room is gonna, I think, stir me.
Yeah.
I did a magic trick.
Going.
It's not real magic.
I told you that jar was magic.
No, but now there's 5 of them.
How?
No, it's not.
5.
No doubt of the magic in that thing. Mario, I had a vision of sorts looking into that jar last night while guarding.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. If Kuji's still asleep, then I'm going to make sure that there's an extra blanket over her. Try and keep her asleep during this. Because she was freaked out enough last night.
That's fair.
As a voice came from within the jar, told me that I was worshipping a false god and that I'd protected one of its own, and that I was to wait. That it was an ancient thing and that its time, that there's something about its time coming perhaps. Certainly a hint of foreboding, but talk of us worshipping a false god. If this thing stands against the circle, then I feel duty-bound to do something about it.
Wow, that... And then, so you had that, and then suddenly there's another 4 turn. Can I have a look at the jars? Do they have names on them?
Each jar has a label, and none of the jars have purple flames in them.
Okay.
They appear to be empty jars.
Are they labelled?
They are.
What is on the labels?
There's a jar labelled Timidar, a jar
Oh, God.
labelled Silic, a jar labelled Jack, a jar labelled Aria, and still a jar labelled Chuchi.
We got 1 each.
I don't think we have a choice about whether we're involved in this or not.
He picked us.
It has clearly decided that we do.
Yes. Silic picks up the jar with Kuji's name on it and tries to look into it to see the back of that label again, now that the whatever was inside of it is gone.
Okay. It looks like it might be part of a map.
How are the labels affixed to these jars?
It feels like it's a very light touch glue. You'd probably be able to dissolve it with a tiny bit of water without spoiling the label material.
Squinting at the jar then, he says, there appears to be signs of a map on the inside of this label.
I wonder if the other ones have got.
Jack's gonna look at their one. Is theirs the same on the other side?
Yep. There's a little bit of a map.
Oh.
Silic kind of picks at the edge of the label. It feels like it might come off with a little bit of water and some careful application of pressure. We should certainly have a look at these. Your suggestion of taking these to the local wise man or local wizard, whoever might potentially be able to identify what was in these jars. That's probably our next move, I would think. And he looks to the others for approval.
Before you mentioned the map, Timidar was halfway through picking up his jar and getting ready to huck it against the wall. But has paused at that.
So Silic was looking around for approval and saw you kind of like Means ready to
Just
chuck it.
ready to go.
When Arya said we've got no choice to be in this, Timidar's deep reaction was fuck that. And yeah.
Silik narrows eyes just a little bit like,
I think we should go and ask, because that thing seemed like it was carrying something over the roof last night. We should probably check if anyone has, like, if anything's been stolen or anyone's gone missing.
We should check in with the tavern,
Yeah.
the barkeep. They'd probably be the first ones to hear about anything. But maybe we should peel all these labels off and look at the map first before we take. Maybe they all fit together, like a little jigsaw.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that first before we go anywhere.
Okay. We can't really keep this from Kuji, but
Kuji is
I'd rather
starting
keep
to stir.
wild speculation away from her if possible.
We shouldn't say anything until we've got a complete picture.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
Maybe not that far, but maybe the border.
Yeah, like not. I just don't want her to be terrified because whatever that was meant something really bad to her.
She seems scared.
Yeah.
She pokes her nose out of the blankets. It's like, is Sky normal?
Yeah, it's all back to normal. Morning, Koji.
Good.
The sky magic is gone.
What was on the roof?
We couldn't really make it out very well. It was darkness.
Darkness
Like-
in the dark.
With a kind of a purple outline, although that could have been the sky. Is that familiar to you?
She pops out of the blankets. With a bag.
Yeah! You had a bag. Yeah.
And a thing with a name on it.
A
Kuji has
jar.
a thing.
Yeah, you got one.
He left it behind.
He
Barlioth.
does. Who?
One of the how would you gods.
One of your gods.
Yes.
Oh.
Barlioth will come and choose. Barlioth
Who does he-
chooses carefully for a purpose. But never before has Kuji been chosen.
Do you know others that have been chosen?
She looks around the room, spotting the jars in each of your possessions. Kuji
I
does
think-
now.
Oh.
When he left the jar, there was just the one for you, which was full of a purple fire. And then overnight, it turned into the 5 of them that are sitting here now.
Yes, and no power, no fire, no purple.
Yes.
This is a children's story
Oh?
told at fireside of Balioth's gift and the voice of Anensis.
Mm.
Who spoke with Anensis? This is
Jack.
important.
I didn't really speak to them. They just handed me the jars. If anybody spoke to anybody, it was Cyric. You had voices.
With a grave look on his face. Yes, I spoke to something within that jar that told me that the god that we worship is not true and false. I must admit, as somebody who's a true believer of sorts, this is not to my taste. What more could you tell me of this Anensis? It spoke of foreboding things to me.
Anensis is the one who sees what may yet be and what has not become.
That makes sense of the voice telling me that I had been seen. Seemed to say that with a certain amount of connotation, as if it had taken note of whether my behavior or our group's behavior was unclear, but yes, it seems that we may be tasked by something, with something by this voice, that it was telling us to wait, and that you, Kuji, appeared to be potentially even the catalyst for this, given your jar was the first one here.
Kuji had, in my farm, a little corner for Anensis. It is tradition. Anensis in each home, because Anensis will call when it is needed.
Is this Anensis one of your favourable gods, let's say, or is this a wrathful sort that we perhaps should... Well, I'll be honest, I don't see the divinity of this thing myself, but within your culture, how do you see Anensis?
The orb of all gods contains wrath, but no god is wrath.
The orb of all gods, you say? He says with a vision of the dividing circle in his mind, or the sphere that was breaking apart.
Yes. If you anger a god, there is wrath. But it would be a waste to have a god whose purpose was wrath.
Seems practical.
Yeah, Silik has no more questions. He's just fallen silent, dwelling on the thoughts of the connotations of what have just been said, and certainly looks very grave, and if he could go pale, he's gone pale.
That's fair.
Jack's kind of absorbing into the information, and then it's just like,
Well, we're not gonna do any thinking on an empty stomach. Let's go get some breakfast. And then I think we make a plan.
Do we know if anything in this world would tie to Anensis? Like, it has the feel of if he said we were worshipping a false god, does that mean that their gods were here at one point as well? Hoping that if we can find anything, then maybe we can get Kuji to have a look at it and see if it seems familiar. But I'm not sure where we would look for things like that.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that's likely to become very visible to the circle if you go about it. Minor technical hitch.
Yes,
Pay
there's a
no
dog that
attention
needs
to
a
the-
bathroom break.
Yep. Pay no attention to the captions on the cameras.
This could be tricky. Although, I guess, if we are going round to see if we can find any other anomalies, like where Kuji was at the farm and the fish in the river, we might find more clues there as well. I'm not convinced that we should check in with the circle just yet.
Well,
Royal
as Jack suggested, we should probably look at this map, but we could perhaps try and remove these labels over breakfast, ask for some water and perhaps a bowl of water to help remove whatever glue has affixed these things, and take our time, I don't know, taking stock of the situation.
I can go down to the kitchens and see if we could have breakfast in here.
Yes, I
Rather
suspect
than in a
it may be
public
for
room.
best.
Okay, I'll go do that. Yeah. And Araya hurries out of the room looking kind of stressed.
That's fair.
Silik's going to kind of take a seat on the bed, on one of the beds near Timidar, and is going to kind of wearily say, I must admit that perhaps your paranoia is not unfounded, having spoken of things that are unknown and that the circle keeps from us. This certainly, the voice that I spoke to gave the impression that it perhaps, well, it was certainly aware of who I am and where my allegiances lie. But for it to know that begs questions of, well, the divinity of... No, I can't... No, I couldn't even question the divinity of Armand. And he's starting to lose his shit a little bit as he's talking to you, Timidar.
I don't like any of this. It's talk of gods and things. And how did it know my name?
Well, if this is the Anensis, the one that sees, one has to suppose that... Well, could this bag creature, whatever it was, could that be an agent of Anensis? Is this some deliverer of messages on its behalf?
Start scratching the label off of my... Not scratching it, well, you know, trying to get the label off of my jar.
Kuji pipes up. No. Balioth is...
Stay out of this, Kuji.
Balioth is one of the gods.
Give a shit.
Ah, so...
Don't be rude.
Like jars with my name on it. I didn't consent to any of this.
Timidar, come on. It's just a jar with your name on it. You could use it
Yes.
for anything.
And I will as soon as I get my name off of it.
But then they don't... You know it's yours. It's just a thing for storing
get the
stuff
label
in
off.
it.
At this point, Araya comes back in, fortuitously, with some food and a bowl of water for the labels.
Jack's gonna tuck into breakfast first before he does anything. No. I'll food first.
I must admit my appetite is a little lost, given the events of the night. And Silik kind of dips his jar label end first into the water and kind of gives it a little wash to try and... If he gives it enough of a soak, would it just slip off? Or does he have to give it a pick or anything?
No, a very little bit of water is enough to dissolve the glue. It's clearly designed to be easily removed. And it doesn't appear to do any harm to the label itself.
So Silik slides his piece off of the jar and sort of smooths it out on the table.
Okay. As before, it has your name on one side and what looks like part of a map on the other.
Having done that, he has a little nibble of some bread. He tries to get as much as he can stomach, but definitely been a stomach shrinking night, let's say. Adrenaline has run high for an unpleasant amount of time.
After having a bit of food, Araya basically does the same to get the label off of the jar, and turns to Silik to say consolingly that it appears that you've had the most disconcerting events overnight.
That's to say the least. Is there any indication... Oh, sorry. Now that the...
No.
Down. With the other label on the table, is there any indication that they connect in any way? Are there any edges that look like they would fit together?
There are definitely a couple of roads running across each of them, but whether they're the same road is harder to tell without more of the map.
Do we have a map?
You have access to maps. You'd be able to ask the circle representative in any given town for a map that would cover the town and the surrounding ones.
I was thinking that we could maybe take it and compare it to some maps that we have and see if they line up, possibly. But yeah.
I mean, if we can't figure out how where this shows, maybe Kuji could help with it. Because our worlds are clearly geographically the same. Like, the fields were in the same place and the river was in the same place. But if there's other... I can't think of anything that sounds better for a fantasy setting, so I'll go with points of interest on the map. If there's specific places that are named and stuff, then she'd probably be able to help us work it out.
As you've been saying this, Silik has grabbed Kuji's jar and has given it the dunk and slid the thing off and added it to the rest of the map pieces.
Okay. Is that now all 5 pieces you've got in front of you?
Madar gets his off. Adds it to the table and then is sort of still heavily considering smashing the jar.
If you don't give it to me, I'll have the jar.
No,
I can have a use for
my
it.
jar. I have my name on it.
You're so weird, Timidar.
I should get to decide what happens with the jar that's volunteered me for some kind of anti-divine quest or whatever the hell is going on here.
Do you want the extra information or not, Timidar?
I've taken the label off. I should be allowed to smash the jar if I want to.
Here's mine.
I mean,
Kuji, these jars that Baldieth has left for us, is there any talk of what's contained within them and what might happen were we to open or potentially smash one of these things?
To smash? Very wasteful. Good jaws.
See? Even Kuji agrees with me.
I smashed the jar.
Now there's glass everywhere!
Okay, I open the window and throw it out into the street.
Why would you do that?
Now there's not glass everywhere.
Raya
could have
runs
hit
over,
someone.
goes and looks out of the window to make sure that Timidar hasn't just, like, brained someone.
I
from
aimed for an
window.
orphan child.
Jack's the same. Jack's like, oh my god!
What is wrong with you?
There is now glass everywhere in the street. And
Think of those
somebody
poor
looking
sods
up
wandering
out the
on their bare
window
feet.
and shaking their fist.
Shake my fist back at them. Mind your own business.
So sorry!
What did they teach you in your training? This is madness. Why would you treat the townsfolk this way? I
I didn't
appreciate.
mean to hit them.
Oh. What did the pavement ever do to you?
Timidar,
Mildly,
sometimes I question our friendship. Because you're very mean sometimes.
I don't like being pushed around by jar people.
But they're gods.
Careful with your phrasing, Arya.
They're Kuji's gods.
Okay.
We don't know whose gods they are.
They are apparently beings of similar to godlike power that made the entire sky change.
Yeah, I could do that. I just don't want to.
Yeah, but they're not people I want pissed at us.
No.
There was nothing in our training about how to deal with this.
Oh.
I tug into breakfast.
Jack's gonna hand over their piece and go back to tucking into breakfast.
Well, as Silik, as his appetite's very poor, he's going to sit and try and move these things around to see if there's any clear, like, well, this left bit goes onto this right bit, and is there a configuration he can get it into that looks like it's a combinative map?
You're pretty sure this one line is a river, and it appears on multiple fragments.
Okay.
But it's difficult to tell exactly what might join onto it. Kuji comes and stands beside you and points at a little sketch that approximates a village or town. This. See, this building has no roof. And you look closer and she's correct, it's the only building depicted without a roof.
Is there a reason it doesn't have a roof?
My clutchmates and I, we burnt that roof by accident. When we were very small.
Are you a bit naughty?
Perhaps a little. But not now. Kuji is good now.
Is this a map that you recognize, Kuji? Is the burnt roof house a landmark of sorts that your people would mark on the map?
Oh yes. It is. They changed how they use it after the roof fell. It is a... I don't know. I don't have the word. If you lie back in that building and you look up, it is as though you are camping. You can see everything above you.
So perhaps a pleasant place for a summer's eve to spend with one's companions, just stargazing, or is there something more to that? Do you see your own sky, or do you? Well, we looked up and saw another sky last night. Do you see your own when you look up from that house?
But that house is under my sky.
Well, of course, but I'm sorry. Perhaps I've not made myself clear there. It's hard to describe the differences when talking about the differences between places, and well, what's familiar to us is unfamiliar to you. But there's no difference when looking up from there. You walk into the building, and it's the same sky as when you walked through the threshold, shall we say? Is that correct?
Yes, if you can go to see the sky, or you can go to see what else you might see if you have the way of seeing.
The way of seeing.
Is it something like how, so a little bit like Enensis sees things that haven't happened yet? If people go there, can they see things that haven't happened or things that are far away?
Yes, if you have the knack. It is a knack, but it can be done. And I think because there are still walls, it is better than if you are camping for seeing things that are not the thing that you are looking at. I think I need more breakfast.
That is easily arranged.
She's happy to sit and devour a chunk of breakfast while the rest of you digest this new pronouncement.
Strange that this particular point of interest, familiar to our companion, is included on this map. Whether there's anything else that they might potentially, when they've got their, I don't know, when their stomach is full and they can think a little bit more clearly, perhaps there's some more locations they could point us towards, but given this is another world, it's hard to know whether we could use this to navigate anywhere. What purpose have we been given this for?
Yes, all seems rather useless to us, if you ask me.
It's definitely deliberately made for us, for whatever purpose this is. It's... I think we're involved because we found and look after Kuji.
The voice I spoke to certainly gave the impression that because we had aided one of its followers, it had its eye on us.
I feel like I haven't really been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the Kuji thing, to be honest. If anything, you all spent a lot of time telling me why we shouldn't drown her.
Because she's lovely.
Look, I wasn't going to let's not get into this again. I'm just...
Fine, we're a unit. So it's not surprising that this being considers us as a unit.
That's what I get for not buying a separate room when we stay at the inn.
Possibly.
Roped into some kind of otherworldly... I'm going to say steeplechase, but that's not what I mean at all.
Quest.
Quest, yes. While I'm asleep as well. I fell asleep, and the next thing I wake up in the morning, there's a jar with my name on it, and I've got a map attached to my name. And things.
You never know, it could have been a secret admirer.
Well,
Oh, well.
That sort of thing doesn't tend to happen to me.
Aw, poor Timidar.
People are usually pretty open about not liking me, so
We like you, Timidar.
Sometimes.
All of the time. We might not always agree, but we still like you.
Who else am I gonna sing songs with on the road?
well, you've got Cootie now to sing songs with.
But Kuji's not as good singer as you are. Shh.
Hasn't got that rich baritone that I'm known for throughout the lands.
Are we all
Anyway.
looking for breakfast at this point?
Silic, as you look again at the map in a desperate attempt to try and work out where anything on it really is, in the bottom corner there's a jar.
On the map itself?
Yep.
This is strange. And he plops his finger down on the jar and points to it. There's a jar on the map itself. Could that, well, studying that map a little bit more closely, is there any indication of like a similarity between the local area that we're currently in and the area surrounding that jar on the map?
It's definitely not in the jar is definitely not where you currently are. But if you squint really hard at what appears to be a river, you think you might be able to work out how to get to the jar from where you are. Provided the river is where you think it is.
Well, there's the hint. I seem to be able to see some hint of some slightly familiar locales here, and at least some sense of direction that if we follow this line, this appears to be a river, and if it leads down towards the jar, well, the only clue we have are these jars. Perhaps I'm off base here, but I think that maybe this is our destination. There doesn't appear to be any other marking on this map that I can see that hints at intent.
So he gives us some jars with some maps, with a jar in the map to go find another jar?
Maybe it's just so we recognise that that's where we need to go, but if anyone else found the map by itself, it wouldn't
They'd be
make sense to them.
Like little breadcrumbs,
Yes.
except they're
suppose-
jars. And you smashed one!
Yeah.
And I'll do it again.
You're not getting mine.
Yes,
My
like
jar.
grabs Kuji's and his own jar and kind of like moves them a bit closer.
No more jars for you.
Well, the Sinensis might see a lot of things, but they're certainly not very good at communicating their intent to us, are they?
Maybe they're supposed to be. Maybe they just expect a little bit more intelligence, and that's why it's all cryptic.
I mean, they are from this other world, except it's so similar to ours. Like this other version. So maybe most people in their version would understand it.
Communicating via jars instead of the very nice headed lettered stationery that we're used to here.
Yes. I mean, it was quite a good way of using the jar to hold the magic. Definitely worked. So
It shouldn't though. Give me one of those jars a second.
No!
Sort of
Right.
prove a point.
No.
Mariah goes and closes the window and stands in front of it.
Tentatively, Slick puts his hand on the lid of his jar and says to Kuji, "Sir, there would be nothing. The Adensis would not take offense at opening these jars. You said that it would be a waste to simply throw them away. Is it? I mean, this is a children's story in your land, so I suppose you've no experience of this, but I suppose... Should I?"
Juji looks at the jar contemplatively, looks back at you. Is it still magical?
There's no hint of anything left within this thing.
I can look.
So that gives it a good shake to see if there's anything stuck to the lid. Any magic that might fall into the jar.
There's always a little bit at the bottom.
There's always some in the rim.
Scraping it out with a knife. Like peanut butter, it gets stuck around the sides.
I have a look for Arcana and rolled an 8.
There's nothing remaining that is magical about the jars in your possession. Or the labels.
I don't see any magic. It looks like it is simply just empty.
Well, better safe than sorry. So it kind of holds it out at arm's length and untwists it. Be ready for anything. And he flips it off, takes the top off with a flourish, and kind of like waits to see if something happens.
Chuji watches you with interest, and as you flourish, he screws up her face, and you just hear this very, very gently sardonic, "Ta-da!"
Holding it like for a second, and then kind of brings it back down again. Well, I suppose that's confirmation that the magic is gone.
Good jars. Well made.
Tis nothing but a jar.
Do we have any milk with breakfast?
I'm pretty sure I would have brought milk up for you.
Okay. Give me the jar a second.
No,
I'm not going to smash it. I'm not going to smash it.
I'm not giving you my jar.
Well, I will trust you, as we've proven that there's nothing left in these things that perhaps could do any harm aside from shards of broken glass.
Derek, you shouldn't trust it.
Yeah.
It's going to pass over the... just keep in the lid for now.
I pour a bit of milk in it, hold a spoon in the milk, and cast Ray of Frost on the jar. I want to make ice cream.
That's fantastic.
You do that.
How does it turn out? Pure milk ice cream. How does it turn out?
The taste is a little jarring.
Alpha Minder, leave this call. Cat, boo this man. Well, anyway. I pull the ice cream out with the spoon that's stuck in it and hand it to whoever wants ice cream.
For breakfast? Okay.
Or any.
Frozen milk?
Cream.
Not sure I've ever tried frozen milk before. Scoops a bit out and has a mouthful. Not bad. Well, that was a better idea than I thought it was going to be.
And thus I proved the jars can contain magic as well.
Well done, well done. You certainly cheered Sirik up, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he's
Smash
kind
the
of...
jar. No. No, I don't. No, that time.
Silik's going to keep helping himself to little, small spoonfuls. He doesn't want to take big ones and, like, take it all, but he is going to slowly eat all of that if nobody takes it off of it.
That's fine.
You need a sweet tooth. A sweet beak or whatever.
Whatever appendage he's got.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you have the pieces of map. You think you know where the map might lead. And potentially, that might take you to somewhere useful from the point of view of an Ensis. Or it might not. You'll only find out if you go that way. However, for the moment, there's remains of breakfast around you. That's where we shall draw this evening's game to a close.
Good stuff.
Ooh.
Any final thoughts before we lead out?
Well, the stage is set. Pursuing whatever task Anensis has put us on.
Reluctantly.
Yeah.
Oh, what gods? What have we have we
What have we done?
that too, but
This is
Who
what
are
comes
these
from
people?
helping people.
There's some tiny part of Silic that is thinking, it's a good thing I've not taken my oaths yet.
just in case you're going to have a crisis of faith.
There's all kinds of swirling thoughts of questions of divinity and the truth of things, and all that talk of paranoid conspiracy, or at least what he thought was paranoid conspiracy in the past, is now starting to dig into him a little bit.
How many gods are there in our world?
Oh,
Mm.
the circle has many parts.
Spheres are much more, I don't know, complete objects than circles, as it were. There's some part of him that's like,
Deep.
okay, a pantheon, but then the sphere was coming apart.
What, like a chocolate orange?
The vision of the like the advert with the chocolate
Yeah.
segments perfectly falling.
Yeah.
That never happens.
No.
No, there's always
never
that weird middle bit, isn't there? I don't know what's up
Yep.
with that.
Yep.
The
Let's already
spine.
go for chocolate orange right now. That's how I want to leave this episode. By wishing I had bought chocolate orange.
That seems
Ah,
like
Terry.
a reasonable shout.
I miss chocolate orange.
Well, the time of year's coming around. They're on the store shelves now. I've seen the Christmas stuff coming out. It's
That's true.
now's your time.
We've had the Christmas stuff in since like last month.
Yeah, we've had it at my work since September. Obviously, that's a little bit less edible.
But no, it's been fun. I have enjoyed this.
Excuse me. Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening as our cast explored Varlastan, its inhabitants, and its secrets. We'd like to thank the Penance RPG sponsors, DnDice.co.uk and Gemhammer & Sons Gaming, for supporting both the podcast and our other content. The Varlastan setting is built using World Anvil's excellent toolset, and we're going to be releasing some of the setting content after the cast has experienced it for themselves. Check out the Varlastan Circle page on PenanceRPG.com for more information. You can find the Penance RPG podcast on your favourite podcast app, and we're on social media at Penance RPG. Dragon and Amy are cast members from Penance RPG, and Lunrwolf assists behind the scenes. AJ presents, and Eden appears in Pretending with Dice, an actual play variety podcast, also available through all good podcast apps. The Varlastan Circle will return in 2 weeks. To see the other scheduled streams on the Penance RPG channel, please check the stream information below. I shall hand you over to Dragon, who has some interesting information about a Twitter poll, and will hand us off to someone else for the rest of the evening.
So, as many of you probably saw, we had a game that went live on Saturday, where Eden, Amy, myself, and another player took on the Lords of the Rollocalypse, which is a tie-in to Gemhammer & Sons' newest Kickstarter, which is ongoing. It was we spent an awful lot of time being very confused about what was going on. Because we were just picked up from Varlastan and dropped into this. So that was entertaining. But we're looking for who your favourite character and the MVP from that game was. So I shall drop a link into chat. It's being run as a Twitter poll. And it's running until like 3 p.m. on Wednesday. So we'd absolutely love to get votes in, and you may be able to see more of those characters in those settings. For raiding, goodness, there's actually not that many people on that we follow. That's unusual. There's usually too many people to choose from.
You want? I can go live and just sit here weirdly.
I mean, you could
Hey,
do
welcome to the stream.
if you
Hey,
really
what's
want
up?
to.
Welcome, Raiders. Is your voice familiar? No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, is that link showing up?
The Twitter one
I've
is,
got it.
yeah.
The Twitter is, yeah, I've got it.
Okay. That's good, hopefully. Okay, what are people playing? I'm really tempted to take us all over to one that Nikolai waved in front of me last week, which is the Hedgehog Sanctuary. Because it's really cute.
The hedgehogs are cute, though.
I did see the I saw the Hedgehog Sanctuary one. Bit early in the evening for it to be very active, though.
So yes. Yeah, so we'll go to Lily Dreams On. And this is where I remember that I am terrible at doing this.
You can just do /raid if you're, well, you're signed in as Penance RPG, so yeah.
Yeah, it's more because I have it, like, both my accounts running right now. But yes, we'll jump over to Lily Dreams On, who is currently playing Yakuza 5 Remastered.
Do you like a bit of Yakuza? Hopefully they're doing the karaoke.
I suspect they probably will.
The only bit of that game I actually know about.
Yakuza 5.
Yeah.
We've raided out now. Yakuza 5 is the one with the...
Remember to end the spoil.